Welcome to Payne on Politics, a podcast where host Dr. Gregory Payne of Emerson College sits down with fellow experts to discuss the current state of politics, public opinion, and global affairs. In a world growing increasingly complex, communication and critical thinking is key. This only makes the Emerson motto, expression necessary to evolution, more true.
Hello, this is Gregory Payne for Payne on Politics. I'm the Chair of Communication Studies, the first communication department in the United States, also co-director of the Emerson Blanquerna Global Center. And I'm here with a colleague who was a star on the soccer field, and he's someone who's not too far away right now. Warren, welcome to Payne on Politics.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Listen, tell us, of course, I remember seeing you and Nico out there playing soccer, but what are you doing having graduated from Emerson?
Well, I think first things first, I wanted to really get into the sports side of things. Right? I was a sports communication major. I wanted to be able to work in the sports field in some way, shape, or form. Through Emerson, I was able to get a ton of different internships at professional sports leagues, back in Florida, professional sports teams in Major League Soccer, and so on and so forth. And so that's what I had thought, right? Everyone has a plan,
yes,
but of course, life works its way out in different ways. So that was what I had really thought. And as I graduated college, I was doing things like that, getting internships, working here at a team called Boston City FC out of Malden,
right,
with Nico as well.
Yes.
And so what ended up happening was, as I got more and more entrenched in the business, I kind of realized to myself, you know, as much as I love the sports communication side and the marketing and the advertising side and the social media side, I also really miss being on the field. And I thought that being able to affect the game and the team or the program in a marketing and executive and maybe a GM point of view would be something that I would really love. But over time, through, you know, just different people asking, hey, come help us coach here, coach there, I ended up getting into coaching a little bit more and really loving that aspect of it as well. And I think having that best of both worlds was kind of what I enjoyed. And so I ended up getting my master's degree at Regis College in sports communications as well.
Congratulations, yes.
Thank you very much. And so at that time, the deal was that as a graduate assistant, you work for the school in some capacity and then get your master's degree for free. So my point of thought was, you know, listen, let me just do whatever for the school. Genuinely, without being rude, I don't really care what. I just would love to be able to get a master's degree in this and further this a little bit more, because everyone and their mother was telling me, well, if you want to go further in this field, you need a master's degree. You need a master's degree. And so when I got that, my job was to be the assistant coach for the Regis College men's soccer team.
Congratulations.
And just, thank you. And I just fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with it. Just hit me like a ton of bricks, like just an epiphany. Wow. Like, this is everything that encompasses that I enjoy and that I think I'm halfway decent at as a professional are actually involved in coaching.
So mentorship, teamwork, leadership, all those skills.
Absolutely. And just rhetoric, speaking every day, speaking to the kids, recruiting, which is all advertising,
yes,
all marketing, right? So being able to do that for a school like Regis College kind of got me thinking, well, you know, what can I do for a different school? And so that was the process of kind of how I got into coaching. And as I graduated, I had a decision to make, right? Which kind of fork of the road do I go down? And thankfully, with my next step, I went down to Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida,
right,
and I was able to coach top 3 Division II team in the country. So on the field, it was spectacular, but off the field, I was able to be involved in the athletic department, in the communications department, being able to work as assistant sports information director as well, and help them run that side of it. So it was kind of best of both worlds sort of combining, which has so far worked out really well for me. I'm really enjoying it.
It's interesting because you mentioned Lynn, and I just talked to a friend of mine last night, Val Fabe, who was at Emerson, and now she's in charge of the rhetoric department communication down at Lynn. So
okay, wow.
There's that connection. When you initially, you said you, of course, studied sports communication here at Emerson. You know, it goes without saying, I love sports communication. Spencer and I started the program. We've got great connections with Stan as well as your coach in soccer. What was it about sports comm that you enjoyed at Emerson? And then I think the second part of the question was, you said the internships through various people that you had met. Do you think that's a distinguishing part of it, that we connect you with that mafia group and that they continue to push you forward?
Absolutely. I mean, I think first things first, to answer the first part of your question, I went to a school called Berkeley Prep down in Tampa, Florida. It's the best school in the entire southeastern United States. So the standard was through the roof. I mean, most of my classmates growing up through high school were speaking about going to Harvard, going to Yale, going to a NESCAC school, right? They were not thinking about communications, right? And so when I really had that thought process, and one of the first passions of mine was actually screenwriting for film and television, and that was my first major when I came to Emerson. It was actually scripts and screenwriting for film and television.
We see people bouncing back and forth. Yes,
absolutely. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And so literally, this is how intense they were about the school, is they put our whole class, which was only about 130 kids, on a bus, and this was around my sophomore year, so 2011, and shipped us all the way up through the East Coast into New England and had us visit a bunch of Berkeley-approved schools. Emerson College, of course, being one of them. So I came to campus, and I thought it was cool. I saw Emerson, BU, BC, Harvard all in one day, so it was a bit, all mixed together. But what was interesting was when I realized that, hey, this screenwriting thing is a real passion of mine, and I had a wonderful teacher there who galvanized my interest in that. She had mentioned Emerson, and then the light bulb went off. Oh, I remember that school. Yeah, the one in Boston. And I loved the area and wanted to be here. And so, of course, right, when you come from a school that pushes doctors, lawyers, practical things, right?
Yes.
Emerson College and screenwriting is not exactly on their top list of things.
But there's a creative element of Warren that said that's what I need to do.
Exactly. And I think it took, at the time, thinking back over now, a ton of bravery to be able to say to counselors and people who were maybe suggesting, we're all fair play to them, more practical things to do, was no, I really want to try this screenwriting thing, and I'm really passionate about it. This is one of the best schools in the world for it. And if I get in, I'm going to go and do it. And obviously, thankfully, I was able to get in, and obviously the soccer compartment as well was a big part of it. And so as I went throughout Emerson, I knew that this was a place for me. Being able to, even though I did switch out ultimately from scripts and screenwriting into sports comm, the biggest thing for me was just having the flexibility to be able to get a well-rounded perspective of, I did broadcasting classes, I did journalism classes, I did marketing classes, and that all is under the sports comm umbrella. So I felt when I was going to my internships and sitting in interviews and speaking to directors and CEOs and managers of these leagues and teams, that I was very prepared. I was very much prepared. I was on it. There wasn't one thing that they could hit me with that I wasn't prepared for, in terms of not just a soccer related thing, but just a sports comm related thing.
Right.
And so it was a tremendous help for me moving forward.
So you mentioned that. I mean, one of the objectives that we have in sports comm is to have an immersive approach, that you, of course, will learn the best that you can in terms of theories and practices in the classroom. But then we put you in, as you said, to those internships where you're conversing. Once you get out, you, of course, have those skills. Would you say that that was one of the reasons or one of the ways that you're able to have this trajectory that has been very successful for you so far?
Yeah, I would say so. I think everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
It's just one of those things where at that time I was hell-bent and convinced that this is what I was going to do. I was going to be a front office guy. As you know, there's many NBA GMs who are Emerson grads.
We have many.
That was part of my thought process. I'm going to do the same thing, but just for soccer. And as that I got deeper and deeper into that world, I fell more and more in love with it, but at the same time realized that the professional sports world is very different from the collegiate sports world. There's different motivations, there's different, there's different tactics, there's a whole different way of how it's done. And you always think growing up, if I'm going to be the best of the best, I want to be at the highest level.
Right.
Well, what's the highest level? It's got to be like the Boston Celtics, the Red Sox, the New England Revolution, the Patriots, teams who are in a professional sports league. And then I realized that, my passion for college athletics, and maybe that stemmed from being, it being so hammered into me as a high schooler growing up at Berkeley, was really what I enjoyed about it. In my experience being a student athlete here at Emerson, And as I've gone forward in my coaching career, whether it's at Regis, whether it's Lynn, or whether it's across the common at Suffolk now, I've really enjoyed being, like you said before, that mentor to student athletes and sharing my experience with them and hoping that they also have the same experiences that I do.
Right.
Because I think that my greatest, I know it sounds very corny, that, college is the best 4 years of your life, but my experience here as a student athlete and a sports comm major was the best 4 years of my life. And so I would love nothing more than for all my players that I coach from now until I stop coaching one day to have the same experience that I did.
Well, that sounds great. One question I would ask, because I think there are a lot of Warrens in the audience listening, and first of all, I would say, when we say pain on politics, I look at sports as soft power, and I know that soccer does bridge the gulf, and it connects a lot of cultures that sometimes are divided politically. Maybe you could talk about that, but the other thing is, many people when they're in a degree program, they'll say, I'm doing screenwriting, but my passion is over in sports comm. How was it that you were able to say, I'm going to make that leap, rather than just stick it out with screenwriting and then maybe do something at the master's level? You decided you're just going to do it, and you did it.
Yeah, I think it helped that a lot of my friends were making a transition as well. When I was here as a freshman, that was when sports comm had just started as a minor.
Right.
And so that was kind of I've never thought about this before. This combines all of my different loves sort of into one big pile.
That's what we were hoping for.
Yeah, well, you definitely got me. So I remember speaking with Spencer about it and him talking about the plans for the future of it and what it could hold. And ultimately, I think, to be completely honest, looking back, I think I was a little scared. I think I was a little scared of screenwriting and going into those classes. And coming from Berkeley, I was, everyone laughed at my scripts and thought I was funny and talented. And then you come into a room where everyone's funny, everyone's talented, everyone's got experience doing this. It is a bit daunting. It's a bit intimidating, I think, when, you start doing your own research on the business, as you do when you come to a place like Emerson.
Right.
And you start realizing, this is a lot like acting. You make it or you don't.
Right.
Or you're pounding the pavement for decades, plural. And so I think from my perspective as a 19-year-old and my parents as well, they thought, maybe let's just look at not a more practical thing, because, sports comm is not a straightforward thing by any means, but this has more avenues to go to than your screenwriting, you're going to LA, you're doing the thing. Right?
But it seems like, Warren, that what you've learned in screenwriting, all those skills you've implemented in terms of your coaching and the various types of roles that you've had. You're now across the common, as you said, at Suffolk. What is it like? Because as a friend of mine used to say, he was interim president of Suffolk, Norman Smith. He said, Lee Pelton and I sat in terms of the crossroads and actually the front porches of America. What's it like between Suffolk and Emerson? Two schools that I think we could do much more in common.
Absolutely. I think they are way more similar than people think.
Yes.
It is a very similar type of school. It is, I would say, in terms of the students I see there, in terms of the culture I see there, especially, obviously, the location, it is borderline the same school. The big difference, which we all know, is that this is a school for communications, this is a school for theater, this is a school for performing arts, which is more heavily specific on that. And Suffolk is just the antithesis of that. It is law, it is business, it is more practical, you could say, things.
Yes.
And so I think there needs to be much more collaboration, because the schools are way more similar than they think, and being literally on the same street corner is baffling that there hasn't been more collaboration between the two schools.
Well, I know one thing before we got started was I'm very, very proud of Skip Perham, who is the director of the new sports management program at Suffolk. And I think with the ties with the business school and with the Celtics, there's opportunities for us to get together. So Skip, if you're watching this, I think we're going to have lunch sometime soon. Let's think about that type of collaboration, especially at the graduate level. So Warren, what do you see next? You're over at Suffolk. If you're going to that GM position, or what's next in the Warren chapter?
Well, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now. I really enjoy the balance of, coaching in college and doing administrative duties. I also am a manager out at a youth soccer club in Massachusetts called FC Stars.
Right.
So I'm involved with them, doing more behind the scenes stuff, doing more, on the field coaching as well. But really collaborating that. I'm also the college advisor for the club as well, helping kids
Terrific.
obviously find their right fit. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I see myself coaching still for the future, but I think ultimately my goal is to be more into the administrative side, move into the administrative side at some point, whether that be an athletic director, whether that be through just, teaching is a huge passion of mine, which I would love to get started at and need to find the right fit for it first. But, teaching, moving into the more administrative side, while also trying to, coach as well, I think is the best path for me forward. And I know a lot of athletic directors. Stan Nance, who we know and love, being one of them, is someone who's coached for
Stan,
many years.
Yes.
Moving on into athletic director roles, and I think that is something that excites me tremendously for the future. Is coaching is brilliant, and I love it, but at some day it will be time to kind of move into more administrative things. I think that as someone who has loved academia as a whole, would love to be able to move into that role of things.
Terrific. Now, my question to you, as you know from Nico, who I know that you are doing some coaching with, and Emily, doesn't take long for me to say, would you like to be teaching your course in sports comm back at your alma mater?
Yeah, of course I would. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Would love to speak about, presenting an opportunity in a class as well, in whether a class is existing or even creating an outline for a class as well that fits within the curriculum. I've had ideas as well that I've been brainstorming for a while about different things that I've spoken about, and so that would be absolutely something I'd be more than interested in doing.
Well, terrific. What I would say is it's been great to talk to you here on Pain on Politics. We look forward to having maybe a conversation with you, myself, and Skip, because we can use sports as soft power to connect Suffolk and Emerson with the opportunities that we have in sports comm. Congratulations, Warren. We're very proud of what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
See you once again on Pain on Politics. We've been very, very happy today to have a soccer star who's now at Suffolk, but his heart is still at Emerson College. Warren, take care.